I am Gregory Hallows, and this is Preserve Halloween Podcast. So, I wrote out this 7-page list of notes that I was going to do on Easter, Resurrection Sunday, Pascha, Passover, whatever you call it, and how, Easter is very similar to Christmas and Halloween, and how the holidays have evolved so much over the past, hundreds of years. And, I wanted to talk about how there's, the connection with the changing seasons and how Easter falls during the vernal equinox. And, I had a really cool write-up, like I said, seven pages of Ostra and Ostera, and just I don't know. But what problem was is I didn't start doing my research until right before Easter, and by the time I realized it was Easter, and I may just save all this stuff for next year because it was a good write-up, but I didn't want to put out a podcast that was for something that had already happened. So I do want to mention a few of the people that I researched about, and also kind of give you guys some homework, I guess, to look up these people and see how they're just fascinating. And I always I always talk about it, and it's probably a broken record by now, but I always love research, and I love talking to you guys about the things that I find out. And Easter isn't on the surface have anything to do with Halloween, but to me there's always a connection I can find, or at least that's what I try to do. There are a few, like I said, there's a few people throughout history that I did want to talk about, other deities, of course Easter and Passover and that time of the year, it's Jesus, and then Ostra and Ostera, all that stuff. But I did find some other deities that I didn't know much about or hadn't heard mentioned before. One of them is the Ghanaian person named Asasi Yah. This is a deity that the Ashanti people of Ghana honor at their festival of Durbar. They also celebrate her husband Yami. He is the sky god who brings rain to the fields. But Asasi Yah is a fertility goddess and often associated with the planting of crops during rainy seasons. She's honored in an annual or often biannual festival called Awuru Oda. I'm saying that terribly wrong, but it's Awuruodo. And she is in Ghanaian folktale, she is the mother of the Anansi, the trickster god, who many West Africans followed to the New World during the slave trades. That's some of the folktales that follow that horrible part of our history. Another deity that I read about was Sybil. This is a mother goddess of Rome. She was the center of a bloody cult called the Phrygians. There is also that's a pretty long history that involves Augustus Caesar and Palatine Hill, and a lot of violence, and Zeus is thrown in there, of course, because Zeus has to be up in everyone's stories for some reason. Freya, of course, the Norse fertility goddess who abandons the earth during the cold months but returns in the spring to restore nature's beauty. I read about her. Also Osiris, the king of the Egyptian gods. He is the lover of Isis, and he dies and is reborn in a resurrection story. And this is very popular among spring deities because of the relationship with the rebirth during spring. And there's also a Hindu goddess of the arts, wisdom, and learning, and she has her own festival each spring in India called Saraswati Puja. This, of course, is Saraswati. So those are some of the deities I found while I was looking up Easter and Ostra and Ostera and going through this whole, I deep dive into research every week, if not more, and I end up, with all these notes that I try to condense down into the podcast, which sometimes I feel like I'm rambling on and on, but I try to make it a short burst of information, so just enough to get you guys interested in maybe, go out and research on your own, or, just get interested about the subject. But like I said, Easter happened and I hadn't recorded the podcast. I'm on vacation. I am actually in my rental car in the parking lot of the hotel I'm staying at in Texas, recording this because I wanted to talk about what I've done while I was here. Another thing, not anything remotely to do with Halloween, my wife and I visited the gas station from Texas Chainsaw Massacre in Bastrop, Texas this week, and that was fun because that's one of her favorite movies of all time, if not her favorite movie of all time, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So it was really fun to be able to take her to see that building, and they weren't open, but it was still a cool visit. I'll probably post a video or some pictures from that little trip we made. One of the other fun things we did while we were here is we were fortunate enough to go on one of the bat tours that takes place at Lady Bird Lake, and we got to the tour about, I think, 7:30, 7:15-ish, right before it got dark. And we went on a little tour. We got to see the skyline of Austin. We got to learn about the history of some of the buildings. But as our tour guide kept reminding us, I know why you're here. You want to see the bats. So if you don't know, there is a bridge in downtown Austin that was built, and it has there's some in the structure of the building of the bridge. There's some cracks that are pretty narrow, but they're deep, and they're pretty much a perfect breeding ground or perfect habitat for these bats. So they came to Austin. I don't remember the year. I don't want to even guess because I don't want to be wrong. But at some point in the past 100 years, let's say, and I know it's before that, but the gist of the story is the bats. But they started to make their home in this newly remodeled bridge, and before you knew it, there was 750,000 bats in this area. And every night at dusk, they make their way from the bridge itself and go out and venture out to eat. I think the entire colony is female because of just the heat, and it's a perfect place for I guess a maternal cave. So at some point in the time frame from when they start to make their way back to Austin from Mexico, where they venture off when it's cold, they double. So that 750,000 group of bats becomes 1.5 million. So I think it's one of the largest. I know it's not the largest. I think it's top 5, but it's one of the largest groups of bats in a rural, not a rural, but a city colony. So it's pretty impressive. We got to watch the bats leave the bridge for probably an hour or so. In the summertime when it's hotter, it's more of like just a blanket of bats. They almost all come out all at once. That's what our guide told us. This was a steady stream. It's only April. It was still fairly warm. I mean, it is Texas, but the stream of bats was very, very slow but slow and steady. So I mean, they were constantly coming out, and it was just a neat thing to see. So I have a video of that too that I'll post up on social media. But it was neat because Austin has, at first the history of the bats was the city didn't want them. They thought they had rabies. They thought they were gonna infect people. They thought they were just going to be a nuisance. But what they didn't realize until some scientists came down to, prove them wrong pretty much. But scientists came down and said, look, there's a very rare chance that these bats get rabies. And if they do, they get paralyzed and they pretty much fall away from the rest of the colony before they can infect any of the other bats. But the big advantage of having a lot of bats is they eat bugs. So all the pests and all the bugs that, a lot of cities have that are just a nuisance, that's food for these bats. So it's turned out to be one of the most cost-effective ways of, bug extermination that exists. It's nature's way of taking care of it. So I think, this is a guess because I don't remember, but I think that the tour guide said they eat 2 or 3 times their weight in bugs every day or every night when they go out. And, for someone like me, I live in an area where there's a ton of mosquitoes. So one of my goals has always been to build a bat habitat. I really want to have bats around my house. I mean, of course, it's the typical, oh, you're that Halloween guy. Of course you want bats. But no, I understand the importance that bats have in, the nature cycle, and it would be nice to have less mosquitoes around my house because I do live next to a pond. And, the same reason I want to have a bumblebee, bee enclosure so that, bees don't need to go away. I don't know if people realize how much our life is benefited from bees being, in existence. And it's weird to think that could be something that becomes extinct soon is a bee. But yeah, I am, bats is one of those things that has been a symbol of Halloween for a very long time. And it was cool to see bats in their natural or not so natural habitat because, they live under a bridge. So you expect, bats is, just in a cave or, somewhere that I guess where they are living is a cave to them. But anyway, it was very cool to see. And another thing that I'm planning, and I've been planning for a while, is I think I'm going to adopt or sponsor a bat at one of the bat sanctuaries in Texas in the name of the Halloween Preservation Society as a whole. It will be our bat. I don't know which one I'm going to pick yet, but as soon as I have that information, I will let everyone know, and I'll post pictures. And bats are a very important part of nature's, life cycle. Most animals have a purpose, and I'm very happy that the people of Austin decided not to completely get rid of the bats, because they were going to poison them, or they were going to shoot them, or they're find any way they could when these bats originally came to get rid of them. And now, bats being in Austin has become one of their trademarks. It's something that tourists come to see. There was people on our tour for the bats that were from, other states, and I think there was a few people from other countries, and they were there to see the bats. So, it was really cool, and the people that invited us to come knew how much I loved Halloween, and they're like, this is something you're going to super enjoy, it's bats. And it's cool that people look out for stuff like that for me, because it's not, of course I love the history of Halloween, and I love everything about it, but there are other things that tie into Halloween, that it's neat for me to know that people think out of the box and think of me when things like that come up. So when I was told that we were going to visit the bridge where the bats lived, I was very excited. And it lived up to what I thought it would be, and I can't wait to visit again. So when I come back, I think I'll be back in Texas this summer. I'm going to check out the bats again and see if the population is up to, 1.5 million by that time. And I want to see, this just black, dark wave of bats come out. Maybe play some Bauhaus or something when they emerge from the cave. But anyway, thanks you guys for listening. I got to introduce the Preservation Society and the podcast to some new people while I was down here in Texas. Of course, I'm wearing Halloween shirts on some of the days, and people are like, why are you wearing a Halloween shirt in April? I was like, because, why not? You should see my house. So thank you for listening. As always, let me know if any of you have visited Austin and have seen the bats yourself. I'd love to hear about it. And as soon as I know which bat we're going to go, for the adoptions or the sponsors, I'll let everyone know. And I'll try to post some information about, bats preservations and bats societies throughout the country, because I know there's a few. I just want to make sure they're reputable and, research more about it before I share that information. But it's really neat that there are those places that exist, and it's neat to see. I think the one in Texas has a live camera that you can watch them, flying around and eating and, just watching them exist. So, as always, preserve Halloween.
When the moon is out and the werewolf shout, you gotta say werewolf. Yeah, werewolf, yeah, werewolf, yeah. Gotta say werewolf, werewolf, yeah, werewolf, yeah. You gotta say werewolf. When the moon is out and the werewolf shout, you gotta say werewolf. Ow, ow, that's the sound of a werewolf.